What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Construction Hall of Fame podcast. Today, I am super excited and pumped to have on Mike Martinez, who's the VP of Business Management at Rossi Builders over in the Bay Area. First of all, thanks for joining us on the show today, Mike.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Matt.
Of course, of course. So if you wouldn't mind giving the audience a little bit of context as to how you got to where you're at in your career today and sort of what brings you to your position at Rossi, that would be awesome to kick this off.
Sure, Matt. So for me, it's a little bit unorthodox. I started in media, and I was in media for over 26 years. And all of my clients, fortunately enough for me, were construction companies, architecture firms, engineering firms, anything that had to do with construction. So obviously, over that career, I made many friends in the construction industry. And when I finally retired from Bisnow Media and the business journals, I decided that I was going to do something fun, and that was go to work in construction. So I taught myself what I needed to know in construction in about 3.5, 4 years, and that's what brings me here to Rossi.
Phenomenal. It's interesting. I've known you for over a year now, and you would have never guessed that you haven't been in construction for your whole life, the way that you talk, the way you lead. So it's pretty interesting to see you make the shift actually from a different space over to construction. As a matter of fact, we need to see more of this, because the more that talent is leaving the industry and we see this talent shortage over coming generations, we're going to need to attract more people like yourself into the industry. So hearing your story is going to help impact a lot of people. So I appreciate you joining us today and sharing your background. So
thanks.
Yeah, of course. Kind of getting a layer deeper. So talking about the Bay Area construction market right now, you focus on a lot of healthcare projects, right? What have you noticed in the construction market lately? Have you seen any shifts? We're talking like right at the beginning of 2023 right now. What are you seeing in the local market?
I mean, obviously, we focus on labs and a lot of medical office buildings and, essential needs businesses. I can tell you the biggest thing that we're seeing in construction, and even in my construction and, media background, I can tell you that, I've never seen the city like this. With a 35% occupancy right now, it's very different than what we're all used to. In San Francisco, you've got buildings and buildings and buildings that are just empty. When you start to see retail spots on the floor, on the streets empty, then there's a problem. So getting folks back to work, getting folks back into the city, that is a big challenge. It's different from every other downturn I've seen. In 2000 it was different. In 2008 it was different, and certainly in 2023, this is just a mass exodus. And when you've got the big companies out there laying off, hundreds of people, it doesn't help. So I think getting people back into the city is key. But I've never seen anything like this.
Right. Quite an interesting time. And we're definitely seeing some verticals of construction taking a harder hit than other verticals, depending on, how impacted they are by the interest rates and all that good stuff. So it's a pretty interesting time to be alive in construction. But with that said, your team's pushing on strong. So that's, all we can ask is for leaders like yourself to keep pushing forward. So kind of teeing this up, over almost 90 years in business for Rossi, right? I mean, you've consistently year over year landed multi-million-dollar bids in San Francisco. What do you think allows you to set yourself apart from competition, to thrive, and just to keep winning these types of projects?
Well, at Rossi, we're sort of a specialty contractor. Not all business is good for us. So we take on opportunities that we feel we can do a great job at. Our word is our bond, and Rossi has been in business for 88 years, and relationships are key to everything with Rossi. I mean, we have subcontractor relationships that we've had over 50 years. So when you can make a call to a subcontractor and they'll respond to you at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, I think that gives us a huge advantage.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And when it comes to building relationships with these subs, it's something I've actually heard to be a problem for a lot of companies, is neglecting the relationship with the sub. What are some things you do to nurture that relationship and make sure that you stay in good graces with your trade partners?
Well, first of all, we pay them. Um, that's the biggest thing you'll ever hear between construction companies, contractors and subcontractors. We pay them. Some of these guys go put their necks out on the line for us. They're not huge companies out there. They can't afford to carry, all of this money when the client's not paying us. So um, we have a reputation that, even when, the client hasn't paid us, our owner and CEO feels that those subcontractors and those relationships are the most important. So we'll often, pay them and make sure that they're thriving and their lives are going well. And then just in generally treating people well. At our company, it is not just about the money. It is really about that time we spend together with our subcontractors, with our clients. Um, that time needs to be uh, it needs to be appreciated. It needs to be nurtured. So it's more than just construction to us. It really is building a true partnership where you're working together every single day and you have that mutual respect all the way around. So I think it's our philosophy. It's part of our core values.
Yeah, it speaks volumes. And the same actually is going to parallel over to your people, like treating your people with respect. And the next question actually is something where I think this might actually tee it up pretty well. When it comes to what's allowed you to set yourself apart in terms of not only recruiting great leaders, but also retaining great leaders who don't jump ship, what do you think sets Rossi apart? What makes people want to stay as a part of the team of Rossi, not just to get them to join in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt. I mean, we're definitely a family driven company. Rossi is third generation. Craig's father, Craig's grandfather. Um, we family and traditions, core values are very important to us. Often when I'm talking to recruiters like yourself, Matt, I'll say they have to fit with Rossi, and sometimes we've got a recruit that checks all the boxes, um, but they just don't gel with the company the way we need them to, and we'll often pull a recruit at the last second because they just don't meet the criteria. Every person that we hire to come work for Rossi, whether it's an executive vice president or it's a project coordinator or a laborer, they have to meet the Rossi philosophy, uh, which is our core values. Uh, empathy, responsiveness, um, you know, uh, humility, communication. These are things that are very important to us. So when we see somebody that doesn't meet those needs, uh, it sticks out to us. So it's very clear to us. Keep to what we know works, and it really benefits us. When we shy away from that is when uh, we always regret it. So if I hope that answers your question correctly.
It totally does. And for me, for anyone watching this, it's really cool to see leaders not just talk about this, not to just put it on their website or talk about it on LinkedIn, but it's cool to watch people who actually embody this and who actually live this out. And Mike, I mean, we're talking about responsiveness just as an example. Sometimes I'll be on the phone with Mike at 7 p.m. Like Mike cares about his company. He gets back to his people. And at the end of the day, he's a busy guy. Mike is not he's not dealing with a free schedule all day. So it just goes to show Mike, and then to dive on empathy, he cares about his people because when he gets back to you, let's just say he was busy. He lets you know exactly what he needs to get done, what he needs from me, and he tells you that he cares about you. He lets you know and he actually shows you. So for anyone watching this, it's easy to talk about it, but it's a lot harder to actually be about it as a leader. And it all starts from the top down. So talking to companies like you, it often becomes not as much of a secret why you've been successful over the years. So
Well, Matt, one of my mentors, and I've had a lot. I've been lucky. Craig Rossi, who is the CEO of our company, is one of my mentors. If I could be more like him, I would be fulfilled. Um, but somebody told me a long time ago, if you should be able to tell the speed of which your employee walks by your office, what kind of mood they're in. If they're moving just along, hey, they're busy, they're this, they're that. If they're kind of moping along, something's not right. You should be able to tell what those employees are feeling, um, and you need to go over and ask them, "Are you okay? How are things doing?" We do things like employee check-ins, where one of our four leadership group will just pick up the phone and just call somebody and just say, "Hey, look, do you have a minute? How are you? Is everything okay?" Now, some employers may cringe at doing that because of, what could come up. But I look at it like, and I think my team looks at it like, if we don't do those kind of things, um, people tend to get upset about things and they hold them in and they fester about them. And then in the most unopportune time, it comes back at you like, and it's not really about what the problem is. It's about this anger that's sort of built inside of them and nobody's listening to. So we try to do things different. We try to break that mold and really understand our employees, and the same with our clients, really understand the beat that they're walking at.
Makes so much sense. I actually just had someone on the podcast a week ago named Matt Graves. He's an owner's rep for a company called AGCM, and he talked about being more than a number. And we dove into like, what is being more than a number in a construction company? What does that actually look like? And one thing he mentioned is this red tape bureaucracy that you find in a lot of the larger or mid-sized companies, where no VP, no executive in the company is calling you. You might not even know their cell phone number. You might have to reach out to them on LinkedIn or go through three of your higher ups just to get to that person. Whereas at a company like yours, you have people who are executives on the team actually checking in on their people, showing them that they care. And not only that, but you're proactively problem solving. You're not waiting to be responsive to or reactive to something that comes up, but you're being proactive to take care of your people, make sure everything's good to go. And finally, just to kind of cap that off, I heard a quote by someone named Alex Hormozy that basically said, your people will go to extreme lengths for leaders who will do more than they expect of their people. So if the leaders are, like you said, you aspire to be like Craig, who's the CEO, president of your company. If he wasn't leading from the top and showing everybody what it looked like to really be a servant leader, to show up and embody the team values, it will be a lot harder to build that culture, because then you would have a less clear idea of what that looks like. And people below you, in terms of like, the ranking of the or hierarchy structure of the company, it would get more obscure the lower down the chain you go. And people would just not really understand the message of like, what even is our culture and how is our team making sure that the culture is actually being upheld. So just hearing you say this, it just really goes to show it starts from the top down with strong leaders and then carrying that throughout the entire culture.
And I think too, Matt, it helps to have uh, a leadership team that all sings from the same hymn, if you will. Chris Barango, our executive vice president, he just embodies construction from a superintendent all the way up to our executive vice president. Understands building inside and out. Rebecca Gubb, our CFO, understands the finance of construction. It's a little bit different than being a CFO for another company. Construction is its own beast, if you will. So having an executive team that all has the same vision is really important. And I think that again, it's about consistency. It's about following your core values and the things that really are important, which are our employees, their families, and the good of the company.
Definitely. Definitely. So something I would love to dive into is a little bit about how you made the transition from another industry to construction. I think some people might maybe think, hey, maybe a career opportunity in construction would be interesting, but they've never really dove down the rabbit hole. Or maybe they're thinking like, hey, construction has this stigma. I don't want to break into construction. So what would you say to someone who's maybe considering it, or how would you explain your transition from out of the industry to joining the construction space?
Well, Matt, I will tell you this. Construction is a no joke business. Don't pretend to know something that you don't, or you'll get sought out in 2 seconds in this business. Um, I never pretend to know more than I know. Um, I was fortunate enough early in my construction career to have uh, some people that really guided me in the right direction. But I really wanted to learn construction. I really wanted to learn, you know, shoring, drywall, electrical, concrete. I really wanted to learn all these different things. So I made it my business to often visit job sites, stay on job sites, and take the opportunity of superintendents that were kind enough to sort of say, "Hey, this is what we're doing here. If you want to learn," and then of course just continuing to educate myself before I made the leap into construction. If you're going to do construction sales, which everybody sort of, I've been in sales my entire life, and that's sort of what I always get sort of pigeonholed into. If you want to do sales, I don't think you necessarily need how to build to sell construction. However, the construction industry is not for the faint of heart. If you want to get into construction, be ready to put the time in. It is, we start very early in the morning, and there's nights that we go late into the night. And in our company, our leadership team, not because Craig demands it or because, Chris needs to have this happen, um, we're always on call. Always, Matt. I mean, if something goes wrong with one of your jobs, you want to know about it. If one of your clients needs you, you need to be there. We're available 365 days a year, period. Um, and that's a huge commitment. So construction's not for everybody. But if you're really that kind of person that wants to be involved in what you do every day and want to know what's going on and want to get into the weeds, construction is a great industry to do that. There's a lot of great people here, a lot of brilliant minds. Sometimes construction companies get a bad rap where, hey, there's just guys out there swinging hammers. Um, Definitely, I have met the smartest people that I've ever met in my life in construction. It is truly uh, a culture of brilliant people.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. It's the stigma we got to keep knocking away. There's my dad, interestingly enough, made the transition from working in a completely different industry to jumping over into construction, more on the home services side. And he's literally killed it for his company. Like he's turned around operations, he's made the company significantly more profitable. So I want to get this message out there of like how executives like yourself, who, like you're talking about, you might not have been an expert builder when you came into the industry, but you had the knowledge of building relationships. You actually had some really strong relationships coming in, and you were able to leverage that and actually put together a real work ethic and a drive to actually or a hunger for knowledge. And you applied that to construction. It reminds me of a quote that Brent Kelly over at Corgan said on a past podcast, which is the first 40 hours a week are doing your job. Anything above that is building your career. So for someone like yourself who actually wants to build a career and they're interested in coming in and really leveling themselves up and they're willing to put in the work and learn, there's such a huge opportunity in construction that people just they don't know enough about because there's maybe a stigma out there, but that's why we're here. We're breaking down the stigma and we're here to make the industry a better place. So I appreciate you sharing your insights, Mike. So kind of just to dive into a little bit of a different topic, when it comes to your process hiring executives versus hiring, let's just say, a project manager or a superintendent or a PC, some companies, you look at their process for a PC or a PM, it might be a couple weeks, there might be a few interviews or a couple interviews, maybe a test, and then you go into the executive side, it could take 6 to 12 weeks to have a hiring process or more. So it might not differ at all and it might differ, but how would you say that your process would differ when recruiting an executive versus more of like a PM superintendent level type candidate?
Matt, for me, that process really doesn't change at all. Um, and I can tell you why. At Rossi, we're looking for the same traits in everybody. Now, obviously, if you're applying for a CFO position or a PC, you need to understand your role and you understand your position and what you do. Um, but as far as what we're looking for, you know, it is really an extensive process that we go through where we do test people to find out how they like to be managed, what type of a person they are, what situations do they not want to be in, what situations do they want to be in. So we do some extensive testing, but more than the extensive testing, they really have to fit the program. We might have them interview with several people in the company. we don't hire people overnight. It takes a while to really sort of feel that person and know. We might bring that person to one of our events. We might ask that person to come out in a setting with us to see how that person reacts. It really just depends on what we're looking for, when we're looking for them, and for what position. We don't often hire people in construction. There's a lot of companies out there that hire people for specific jobs. I'm doing this $20 million job. I need to bring on these three guys. In that sort of industry, I think what tends to happen is the best guy out of those three guys stays. The two guys that weren't that great, the job's over and see you later. We don't do that. We hire people long term. We want to have an established relationship with a PM or superintendent, a project coordinator. We want to have a long-term relationship with them. And as far as we're concerned, they're here until they don't want to be here anymore, or until it's not working out. I mean, we really hire people for the long haul. Rossi's really the place that, if you want a long-term relationship with a company and you want to have stability, all you have to do is work your ass off. As long as you're willing to do that and commit, and people, they say, if you'll give us 100%, 100% is not good enough for us. Okay. It's, and we'll know that, and you'll know that. So, truly committed people can absolutely establish a career with us.
It's so interesting you say that about the 100%. The way I think about that too is one person's 100% can be completely different from someone else's 100%. So like if we're just talking about like, okay, well, let's just say the capacity truly is 100%. Well, let's compare this person 100% to that person 100%. And if you consider that only 10% of the market is truly considered an A player, just statistically, you go back to grade school, 90% to 100% is typically an A. So if you only have 10% of the people who are an A, that leaves, a majority, 90% who are a B or lower. And I believe it's something like 70% who are around like rated as a C or lower, just statistically based on recruitment studies. It's like, how do you find those people who really have that true capacity of 100% and want to be an A player? And with some companies, it could be a lot easier to get lost in the mix. If you're looking at a bigger company where you get pigeonholed or siloed into just a very specific type of work, some people feel like they're not able to really achieve their full potential because they're getting pigeonholed and they're not able to exercise maybe some other skill sets they have. But at the end of the day, I think it really just comes back to finding the people who really care about their career growth and want to put their, as you would put it, 110% in their career to help you succeed. That team of like true A players to run a lean but effective team, obviously without overworking your people. You've talked to me at length about this, to where there's a line between having people do their bandwidth of work, but not overworking them so you can keep your team, in a good place. You've talked to me about that at length, especially when we recruited the last person we did over to your team. So you're definitely practicing what you preach over there. And it's quite refreshing to see that actually, being done. So kind of an interesting question here. And just want to play around with this one a bit. If your company had $1 million extra budget just dropped on your doorstep this year to spend, what would you do with it and why?
So if we had an extra $1 million, Matt, it's Craig's company. So, I would venture to say that we would put that money in the coffers, and put it away for a rainy day. I can tell you right now, the future in the Bay Area with construction is a little uncertain. With office being as scarce as it is right now, office work, we particularly don't build multifamily, so multifamily is very strong. It's moving ahead, but I'm most concerned with the office market. If people aren't working in the cities, then people are not living in the cities. They're moving away. It's a domino effect. The businesses that, if you drive around the financial district today, as opposed to 3 years ago, it's a ghost town. All these businesses are closed. I don't care whatever, everybody wants to paint this positive picture. I get it. I too want to be positive, but let's be realistic. Let's be realistic. What could happen? Okay. Is it going to come back as fast as it should? So back to answer your questions, if we had a million extra dollars, I think we'd put it away for a rainy day, Matt. Again, our employees, um, the 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 goodwill of our company. Everything is about our company and their employees and their families. And so, yeah, I think if we had that kind of money extra left over, we just put it away for in case we need it.
Mm-hmm. Totally makes sense. Okay, so for everyone watching, Rossi is actually a client partner over at Big League, where we recruit construction leaders. And so I know you've worked with a good grip of different or recruiters over your years, and I'd be curious to hear what your experience has been like working with Big League.
So Matt, as even though we're a smaller construction company, we're super busy. We're just doing more jobs with a smaller group of people. Um, I I don't have time to chase down my recruiter. I don't have time to tell them over and over what I'm looking for. Uh, as you know, Matt, you and I have 3 second conversations, and you have a very clear picture of what I'm looking for. So time is everything. I'll often call you and say, Matt, I need this, and then 2 days later, I'll call you and say, Hey, Matt, you know what? Our need has changed. It happens. Um, so I think I look for flexibility. I look for results. I look for employees that we not only get brought to us, but we hire on and they stay with us. Um, I think it's a lot easier, sort of, to go out and get people and bring them in, um, other than to uh, you know hire somebody and really understand who you're hiring. So for me, Matt, I look at a recruitment company that can handle all my needs, and that's and in a quick manner, and you do that. Also, I'm not looking to speak with a bunch of junior people. It's just frustrating to me. I don't know. Maybe at 55, I'm at my limit, Matt. But typically you'll call me, and I'll talk to you about what I need. And unfortunately for you, I don't read everything you send, but you explain it to me clearly. So then I'm ready to go. So communication, Matt, Big League has been great. They've just been responsive. There when I need them. Are you guys perfect? No, nobody is. Okay. But I will say that you always strive to do your best to get us the type of people we need. And fairness. That's another thing. I've had some pretty bad experiences out there with recruitment firms. Also, some very great ones too. I've got some long-term relationships with people that I love, and I can call, and it's great. But I've had some pretty scary ones out there, and I can say that Matt and Big League, and you guys really are more than fair. So, and finance is everything in this industry. If you're gonna pay somebody a huge amount of money to bring somebody in, um, you better have a good relationship with them. And I feel like Big League has proven that to us time and time again, that they're truly invested in getting me the right employee and not just closing a deal one time. And I think that's where a lot of these companies miss the mark.
Really appreciate you, Mike. Thanks for sharing that. And at the end of the day, you pretty much nailed it. We value the relationship over a quick buck. We really want to deliver, and we want to earn your trust for the right reasons. So I appreciate you sharing that. It means a lot to coming from you. And kind of just to kick things off, or I should say to finish things off, let's just say I'm a construction professional or someone in another industry maybe who would like to be in your shoes one day. What advice would you like to give that person?
Oh my God. Um, well, again, it's if you want to do. Excuse me, Matt. I just got to plug in my computer here, or we're going to lose all connection. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I I think be ready to make a commitment. That's it. and be ready to put your heart and soul into it. And I mean, really do that, not just, um, I think at my age, I'm tired of convincing people of what I'm trying to do. They can just look at me and see what I'm trying to do. Um, I'm trying to be the best boss. I'm trying to be the best friend. I'm trying to be the best person that I can in an industry that is very cutthroat and just changing every second. So uh, to come in and jump into construction the way I have, it's been one of my greatest accomplishments.
It's really cool to hear how you value hard work, to say that jumping in has been one of your greatest accomplishments. And at the end of the day, it's interesting. Some people don't want to dive deep into their career. They just want to work as 9 to 5 or maybe 9 to 4 as they can and show up and not really get that much meaning from their work. But at the end of the day, the top performers I talk to, they're concerned with driving impact. They want meaning from their work, and they understand that if you're going to be working for at least a third of your life, including sleep, that it's going to be in your best interest to find something you can really get behind, you can get passionate about, and you feel fulfilled by at the end of the day. And a lot of the times I've found the hardest things that come in life, are oftentimes the most rewarding. And if it's not that hard, it probably won't be that rewarding, in my experience, at least. That's just me. But Mike, I really appreciate you joining us on the show today. I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate you fitting this in your schedule. And I just wanted to again say thanks so much for joining us.
Matt, thank you for having me, and really appreciate all the hard work that you put in for us. It's greatly appreciated. I know that there's been times where you've been in Brazil and called me, and when you say you're going to call, you call. And as many times as I have to say, "Hey, Matt, I can't talk right now," um, you're just very understanding. So I think I think flexibility also is a big part of big league that I think other recruiters can learn from. So thanks, Matt.
I appreciate you. If it's not a win-win and it's not a real partnership, then in my opinion, what's the point? What's the point? There's
Exactly.
that makes for 1 month relationships, which I'm not a big fan of. So I really appreciate you, Mike. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Take care.